something that the two of you did together while you were locked down at home?
Yeah. I mean, we started trying to write children's books, or not trying to, but writing children's books and submitting them before lockdown, actually. It was something that we were already curious about in the world, and trying to figure out how to put something positive out for kids. We care a lot about children being curious. We think that's very important for creative minds, and also just to maybe be a little bit outside of a phone, or just being curious people. And so we were interested in writing children's books, but this one specifically was during lockdown, and our publisher at Penguin suggested maybe we write something, because she really likes Robbie's voice. Like, I don't really write. Really responded to Robbie's writing, and she was like, maybe you guys can try and write a mental health book. And so Robbie wrote one, I wrote one, and Robbie's was far more cute and clever and funny.
Oh, yeah, we want to know what
I know,
yours
we were
was like.
curious what yours was like.
Was it really dark?
Were they like, this is too bleak for kids?
I feel like it was like a mom and a daughter, and it was just like not fun. But Robbie handles everything with humor, and you can see that in just even like the names and how just all the characters that he created.
So cute. It's adorable.
Well, and also, like, I mean, there must be something of writing music and writing in a rhythm and, thinking about word editing, because writing for children is so specific. Were you surprised by like, oh, it came naturally to me, it does feel like writing music? Or was it like, oh, I have to use a different part of my brain?
They're similar, I would say. I mean, with songwriting, I usually start with a title and then the story kind of flows. And in that regard, it was similar, because I came up with Hattie Harmony. And then I was like, that's a cute name. Worry detective, worry to go away. Kind of, that whole mantra started to flow. So it felt like lyrical and rhythmically, like you were saying, like that all kind of parlays into each other. So yeah, they're flexing similar muscles.
Yeah. It's called the full title, Hattie Harmony, Worry Detective, and I've always been interested in this because when you put ages, I think this book is ages 4 to 8. Was there ever a time when you were working on the book and you put something in and somebody was like, "Oh, that's 9 years old. I'm gonna take it out." Like it must be so exacting, and you have to listen to child psychologists and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
right.
And I mean, luckily, no. Luckily, the response has been like, "Oh, I wish I need this now as an adult." But we did have some great consultants who did kind of proofread our suggestions. And luckily, because of research and our own experiences with anxiety and therapy, we were pretty close. I think the thing with kids is more about language being so specific that you're saying we're not trying to get rid of the anxiety or the worry, but work through it. And so trying to make sure that it's not about making things go like disappear, but that there's something, that there's a tool now that you can see it. And we kind of play with that when we talk about facing your fears and pushing through them, and that being courage.
But we did our first book reading yesterday, and I think the median age was 20. So
Listen, 20-year-olds have more. They need it more than anyone.
It's true.
Maybe.
Us doing our readings, like using our voices and speaking like characters to
for pretending they're to children.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Listen, those kids did not have a high school graduation because of COVID. They need help. Actually, literally 19, 20-year-olds are the ones who probably. But it is interesting. It's all about, there are real tools at the end where you talk about mindfulness, and as Hattie Harmony helps her friends deal with their anxiety, she gives them very specific tips. And one of them, there's mindful movement, there's mindful breathing, stress balls, facing fears. These are very specific tools that people can then use. And so I wondered, I think that's a unique in a children's book, because they are so specific. And how did you arrive at that? Is that something that you set out to do? Is that something that came after you had been working on it for a while?
It was oddly connected. Robbie thought it was, for instance, there's a part where Hattie helps her friend Pearl Peppercorn deal with the butterflies in her belly. And Hattie suggests, why don't we go catch some butterflies with my net? And Robbie just thought that was a cute image of having butterflies in your belly and then catching butterflies. But what we could turn that into is mindful movement. We get the same feeling from doing yoga as adults or whatever, but some sort of focused task can distract us. So it was more anecdotal to the story writing, and then we discovered what the actual helpful language and tool is for kids. And the thing that we really wanted to focus on is starting kids with the understanding of the actual language itself, so that they can start to have an awareness of identifying things before even having a tool. So that was also something we were hoping. That was like the first goal.
Yeah, emotional vocabulary for kids to just be aware.
I always think of the movie Elf when they bring in Peter Dinklage, remember, to like go over the kids' book, and he's like, no, asparagus is scary. It needs to be an apple. Kids get apples. And I'm so curious, like, if when you were sitting with the, they're like, Pearl Peppercorn, the porcupine, like, that's too many peas. Like, that's scary for kids. Like, were there weird notes that you thought, are we overthinking this? This is for kids. Or was it like,
I love Pearl Peppercorn.
I love Pearl Peppercorn.
Of course.
Pearl Peppercorn being a porcupine was something our illustrator thought of, because for us we just wrote it. We didn't even art notes to it.
Yeah.
It was a real true collaboration, and Tamar, our publisher, was so on board with everything we wanted to do. There was actually no weird odd notes.
Oh, nice.
The one that was really helpful was, can Hattie also go through a challenge herself? And so that's where we brought in Miss Mirror, and she can face her fear and use positive self-talk.
I too am scared of heights, so I deeply related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My knees buckle.
See?
Yeah.
And I guess bringing the book out at around the, leading up to the first day of school, I know that that's a bit something that you're talking about a lot, but it's kind of great to have this book for somebody who's 6 years old, 7 years old, going into preschool or school for the first time, because you do identify those fears. And I think that one of the great helps when you're going through anxiety is to know that you're not alone, that this maybe is just a garden variety feeling that you've got.
Yeah. And I do. And our hope is that because kids will be able to hopefully identify it in themselves, then they can maybe have a bit more empathy or compassion for someone who's acting a bit surprising in their class, and they don't really know how to manage it, but maybe they have a bit more compassion for that other person because they have the tools themselves. So like that would be, the dream.
Do you guys feel also, like, one thing I was even talking, because I was with like a bunch of college friends this past weekend, we were talking about how one of our friends like really suffered panic attacks while we were in college, and I graduated in 2007, so this was years ago, and we were all like, we didn't really understand what was happening at the time. We were just like, oh, she's having a moment and those sort of things. And, it's so much more in the conversation, but where you started to realize, like, oh yes, anxiety is very much real, or that's something, yes, I want to offer up to kids. Like, do you have one of those sort of memories of like, oh, I remember now feeling like that was, like, I wish I knew mindful breathing. I wish I knew yoga then, because now it's like a huge part of me, but it's just taken me time to realize that's what that was.
Yeah, I mean, every day. I mean, as a kid, I was so afraid to fly, and I would think that, I'd have just like a stomach ache, or, associate it with something else. Like maybe I ate something the night before and it was just agita, but it was, actual anxiety. And I don't think I really had the awareness, and I moved around a lot every couple of years. And so I was constantly in new situations, which caused a lot of anxiety in the classrooms and things like that. And I just didn't really have the tools. So
and I was like your friend. I had wild panic attacks right after college, and I didn't have anxiety as a kid. Really, I was pretty fine and with that kind of stuff. And so I was so confused because it felt like it really came out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden I couldn't cross 14th Street and 7th Avenue. And I thought, oh my God, people are gonna think I'm on drugs if I pass out. And all of a sudden, everything was just such a big moment, dealing with the crazy places that your brain goes to in those moments. We're big walkers. Like we handle everything while walking.
Walking is the best.
Clear the mind.
Walking is maybe underrated, but maybe people love it as much as we do, but it is everything.
So many creative ideas come. It's so good.
Is this going to become a series? Are you thinking of making it an animated series also?
We would love to. We're just kind of in that process. We're big dreamers. we have lots of goals for Hattie. And we really do think that, kind of like Daniel the Tiger, like there's an opportunity for a friendly face to provide comfort in a real way with Hattie. And so we would love to have something like a show or
vitamins.
Robbie would love vitamins and focus
we want to over-medicate children. Number one.
Flintstones.
If you're nervous, take this pill.
Melatonin.
Hattie approved.
The red pill.
The pearl peppercorn pill. No, there's another book. We have another book coming out.
It will be a series,
But the
next
full
summer
scope would be great.
Yeah, that we would love that. That's definitely something that we would love to push, because we also think it's something that is helpful and can be a friend to kids, especially in toys. Like, it's the cutest image as well. Our illustrator Marissa Valdez has such great character drawings with a lot of humor, and we love her color palette. It feels very classic. And there's so many fun details on the page. So there's lots of characters to bring to life at Wildwood Elementary.
Well, I also like at the very back of the book, you guys dedicate it to like a soccer team worth of kids. It's like 100. It's like Dottie and Ruby and like all these kids. And we're like, are these all nieces and nephews, like friends' kids? Like, who are your soccer team of kids listed?
Yeah, there are friends' kids and nieces and nephews who are part of that 4 to 8 bracket. I feel like that. I now kind of feel bad that we left. We just went
some
to the older kids out.
We went to the local Y and just wrote.
Started grabbing kids and their names.
You get a book. You get a book.
Well, because I was kind of like, wow, there's a lot of kids listening that you could get their opinions on things, right? The greatest audience, which is cool.
Yeah, we love having our friends' kids over. It's been that was one of the nicest things actually during lockdown, is we're one of the friends' houses with a pool. And so we could have these outdoor safe hangouts with our friends and their kids, and watching the anxiety about getting into the water every time was like this crazy terror. And then by the time they needed to leave, you couldn't get them out of the pool, and then they started screaming because they didn't want to leave. And and then we also got to see our friends' kids who we've known for so many years start to have younger siblings, and what that's like. And so, is it a responsibility? Is it someone that they're going to compete with? And it's so fun. And so, yes, the Von Trapp family in the back of our book is all of our friends' kids who we adore, and who this book is very inspired by.
Did you make your home up in Sonoma?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you are? That's beautiful up there.
Yeah, we love it up there. And there's a great community there. I mean, the median age there is way over 20. But we do have a great community that has been really lovely and just nice to get out of. I think a major city is good for, I think, the brain.
It's good for walking up there.
Good for walking.
Yeah, clearly there's good walking in Sonoma.
Walking in there.
Well, we're curious because, like, Elizabeth, we've had you on our show, I think, a number of times now, just because you've been Wanda for so many times over the last couple of years, that, like, is part of this also just to, like, use another muscle in your brain outside of, like, being CGI'd and battling aliens and having like something to also put your brain, because that has to take up at least the last like 5 years of your life has been doing intense Marvel stuff. So getting to do just something as another creative outlet must have been also like a kind of a mindfulness tactic for yourself.
Yeah, it was really fun. we were speaking earlier that I'm not necessarily a writer, but carving story is one of my favorite things to do. And I love working with writers aside from Marble Land. I really love being a very active participant in the shows and the films that I work on, and working with Robbie, who isn't just a children's book author now, but a writer of many things. We have been collaborating for the last 4 years on projects. And so it's something that it was really nice for us to collaborate on as well. And I'm kind of his at home first read for everything. And so it's been really fun to get to put something positive for kids as well. Cause I love kids content, but I'm not really in the family movie. I'm not in a lot of family movies. I feel like Marvel's the closest I get to that. So it is nice to kind of put something positive out in the world for younger kids.
And Robbie, what else are you working on besides doing this next book? Is Milo Green out performing? Clearly that was on hold for a while, at least.
Yeah, Milo Green's still on hold. And I'm doing writing some solo music, but mostly writing, developing a show, developing an animation show, a live action show. So just kind of transitioned over into writing full time.
Wow. And are those mostly are they children's, like the animated thing? Is that for kids also, or is it?
The animated thing is for kids, and then there is more of a like an adult show that I've been developing for a little while, and that's more for adults.
And that is, I mean, we hope to create lots of things together. So this is just hopefully just
great.
Lots of fun things to put out in the world. I think we just really love trying to find holes in content, and we're big consumers and incredibly opinionated consumers. And so it's really fun to build your own and try and make other people take risks with you. And that's really what it's all about when you start pitching and developing, is you're just trying to get other people with money to take risks.
Yeah.
And so it's a fun part of the process, I think.
And did you guys get married during lockdown?
Well, we never really talked much about our marriage.
I didn't. I knew you were engaged, and suddenly you were husband and wife. But I don't know. I'm sorry if this is something you keep private. I don't care.
No, we eloped. Nice. And then we had a wedding at another time. But it was
Cool.
and it was before COVID.
Yeah.
I just never talked about it.
Oh, I just assumed you had to deal with all of that and getting married at the same time. But it was all before.
Yeah, it was luckily it was, because there's I had to work in England and there are visa issues with that. So that was we luckily timed things out accidentally really well.
Oh my God, that would have been perfect. Otherwise, you would have smuggle Robbie over the border.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to come at all, actually.
Wow.
And also, everything was so backed up, you couldn't even try to get married then.
Yeah.
But it ended up being
really
working out. Yeah.
Well, belated congratulations from us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what is I know that you had done some work with the Latitude Project. Is that still going on? That's something that I know that you've done together, but obviously both of you independently very active in that.
Yeah, it's been hard for them since Nicaragua's been having because they're focused in Nicaragua, and I think since the government has really shifted over there, it's become a lot more dangerous for them to do the work that they do. But they've been working remotely within the communities, but it has been harder to do the trips that we have done with them. We're still very active with the Stewart House, which is associated with the Rape Foundation. That is a foundation in Los Angeles that primarily takes care of 18-year-olds and younger who have been raped, sexually assaulted, and it's all in-house, from forensics to the court to the therapy, and they deal with the whole family. It's one of the most magical institutions in California. But that's something that we're still very actively a part of.
And a great organization, because sadly the federal government and state governments, law enforcement has not been very responsive to
Yes.
women in that with those kinds of needs. So
Yes, exactly.
that has filled a tremendous hole in the community. Anyway, Elizabeth Olsen, Robbie Arnett, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
thank you.
Thanks for having me again.